Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, there's Dean. Good morning. Welcome and call this meeting of the Municipal Airport Authority City of Fargo to order on this Tuesday, November 12th at 8 a.m. Roll call, please.
Rashani.
Here.
Berg. Cosgrove.
Here.
Ekman.
Here.
And here. Approve the minutes of October 8th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion is second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approve the order of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Discussion. Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Rashani.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye. Okay. And on the regular agenda, is there a motion to approve the regular agenda?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any additions or deletions or any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item number 1, receive and approve the 25-28 Innovation 28 investment plan from Mr. Joe.
I see Shannon is here as well.
Yeah, Shannon's here as well.
Where would you like us?
Shannon.
Would you like us over here?
Right over here if you like.
Okay.
We do have a PowerPoint loaded, I believe.
Yeah, we have a PowerPoint.
Thanks for having Shannon and I this morning. I'd like to especially thank you for your wisdom of putting us first on the agenda, so we can have this conversation and move on. So kudos to everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Joe Race. I'm President and CEO of the Greater Fargo-Moorhead EDC.
Shannon Full, President of the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber.
Over the last year and a half, both Shannon and I and our team and our leadership have been working on developing a strategy that was in your packet for this meeting called Innovate 28. I want to first thank Sean and everybody here for the continued support of our work as organizations, and want to just take a few minutes this morning to highlight what was in your packet. I think page 41 to 58 or something like that. I know you guys have all memorized it, but we'll summarize and ask if you have any questions or comments. Want to make this a dialogue, so please interrupt us at any time. When we put this program of work together at the end of last year, we then at the beginning of this year hired some consultants who do this work across the country to reach out and do about 70 strategic interviews with private and public leaders to take what was a little broader feasibility study and hone in on what are the most important components to the work that we're doing as business development organizations for the region. So I think we have a slide deck. Is that slide up somewhere? Yep. Okay, is it up here? And as that's being brought up, wanted just to mention that the results of that feasibility study really told us from the leadership in the region that the work we were doing is the right work. It's just, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm trying to grab the right PowerPoint. There's two of them here.
I can keep on talking to you. Trust me, Shannon and I have done this presentation. We can do it without slides, but for your benefit, we wanted to have some slides up there. So when we heard back from the leadership, they said, thank you. Just go ahead to that, once you get it started, to that next slide, yeah. what we heard from them was they wanted us to continue to support on our core mission. We began by asking a number of leaders in the region if they had an interest in serving on the campaign cabinet. And you can see here on the bottom right that there's a list of about a dozen individuals, many you know, who have leaned in to support this campaign since its beginning, which really kicked off late summer when we had a presentation to the Cass County Commission, as Commissioner Capitan knows. We're putting in front of everybody a 4-year focus on this collaborative plan starting in 2025 going through 2028. And if you go to that next slide, these are the 3 large objectives that we've decided we should focus on with this program of work. On the left is our labor force. We want to continue to see growth of this regional labor force. And this plan is intended to see that growth at 30% higher than what we see historically in this region. So if we can add 12,000 high quality workers to the marketplace to support our existing companies, new companies developed and companies recruited here, we feel that the investment being made is going to have a significant return. If you look at that middle part of that slide, it's the business expansion opportunities. This is existing companies, new primary sector companies, the creation of new companies in our market. We think we can, through these efforts, see a 30% or more, or a third growth of more projects. You've invested historically in the EDC to focus on these, and we know that if we align better with the work that the Chamber's doing and others, we think we can achieve this this stretch goal of 130 projects over 4 years. And then lastly, we know workforce development and business development aren't going to be successful if we don't have the right public policy. We don't have the right people sitting in the seats at a local and a state level. And so the Chamber really has been the point on our public policy for business development for our region. And we want to sort of double down with their efforts on that. So if you go to the next slide, I'll stop talking for a few minutes, turn it over to Shannon, and she can talk a little bit about some of the workforce strategies that we're partnering on.
So thank you again for the opportunity to be here. As it relates to this plan, as Joe mentioned, the plan is really a comprehensive 4-year plan, collaborative approach to global competitiveness, regional competitiveness, making sure that our region can continue to stay as competitive as possible. We know that our companies are saying the number one thing hindering their ability to attract or ability to expand is their inability to attract, retain, and develop high quality workforce. The first is a very significant amount of funds that we are raising will be dedicated towards talent attraction, very strategically and intentionally placed through demographic areas that make sense around the country, in high growth industry areas that we all are aware of, whether they be biosciences, agriculture, technology, advanced manufacturing, those types of companies. But we also know we need workforce throughout the entire community. So this will focus on those workforce initiatives, bringing the necessary talent into the region. Once we get them here, acclimation is a really important key. So making sure that we've got high-end as well as organic and easily to access concierge services so people can understand the region that they're moving into, why it's important, and how they can create a social infrastructure so that they stay here. And when we say they, not just the recruits, but their trailing spouse, their family, partners, that type of thing. The final component of talent is all around retention and development, and this is really talent development for the now and the future workforce. So things like the work we're doing already with our K-12 school districts as well as our higher education entities. We have five higher education entities in the region, as you all know, and it's really important for us to make sure that those students have direct connectivity to the workforce here, the companies here, with our intent to have them stay here once they graduate or even choose to go to one of our local higher education institutions out of high school. So, and those that are high school students directly entering into the workforce, many of which are participating already with us in a lot of our Ignite initiatives and through some additional credentialing, upskilling, internship placement, all of those things now will be covered under the Ignite or the Innovate 28 campaign.
Any questions on workforce? As this is the biggest kind of piece to the puzzle.
I have one question. Are you working with, like, 12,000 is a lot for housing. So or do you have a
Yeah.
housing plan?
Well, yeah, when we put these numbers together, one of the first things we did is we reached out to the entity and the partners who were part of the regional housing study. And that indicated that our region needs to see about 16,000 housing units in the next decade. And our question was, if we achieve this goal, can we achieve it with the housing stock needed with the estimates and be able to support these numbers? And the answer was yes. Now, I will caveat that by saying we know over the next 6 to 8 years, probably our biggest challenge nationally, which is going to impact us locally, is starting in about, well, it could be starting now, but by 27, we're seeing more people retire than enter the workforce nationally. First time in U.S. history. And so we have this challenge as not only a region, but a country. How are we going to fill the positions that we have in our market, as you all know, is growing at a faster rate. Our workforce is actually growing at a faster rate, which is good, but not fast enough to serve the business needs. So we looked into that to say, hey, are we going to have enough housing units? And based on the analysis, the answer would be yes, but we still have to build them. And we still have to have the workforce and the trades with the skills to build the homes that we need, regardless of what type of home. But it wasn't an issue that we didn't want to dive into with people who are more in that space. If that makes sense.
Paul, I think I'll add, housing, as we know, is very complex. So we've been asked by many now to start really convening the necessary players around the table as it relates to housing, not just the developers, but legislators. So this will cross over into the public policy space, making sure that our legislative agenda includes policy positions related to housing, affordable housing, workforce housing. We've been now very involved in convening the conversation around homelessness and the unhomed and how we get that. So this all does play into the fact that in order for us to have the talent that we need to have the housing stock. In order to have the housing stock, we need to have legislators that are seeing the need for it at the state level, but also public-private partnerships. And so really cultivating some of those public-private partnerships, working with developers on what are they needing to advance the housing stock that we're needing in a very diversified, we know we need very diverse housing stock. So yep, all of that has been part of this work.
Yeah, several months ago, the governor had several meetings across, North Dakota governor, we serve 2 states, had a meeting across the state, different meetings. Today, that report is coming out.
Okay.
With recommendations to the legislature and others for how we can more comprehensively address the housing issue. Because as Shannon said, it's going to require a lot of efforts from a lot of different organizations to address that in a meaningful way. So,
Great question.
yeah. Any other question on workforce?
Not
When
really.
you say that we have the housing capacity, is that rental, owner occupied, or a mixed?
Would be a mix that in terms of what's available in the market and what's projected to come online or needed to come online in that housing study. So again, the question will always be, will there be enough of that built to meet the projected needs? I don't think we can answer that. But the question that we asked ourselves was, if we're successful in growing the marketplace by these numbers, does that align with what the study is saying? And the answer is yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Can you identify what is affordable housing?
So here's, a yes and no. Because when people say affordable housing, are they referring to workforce housing? Are they referring to Section 8? What are they referring to exactly for housing? We do know in this region, and this comes out of the housing study, that if somebody's looking for a single family home, that the household income needs to be at least $92,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you look at one of our goals, our goal on business development is to work with companies who are growing in this market, whether they're here already or we're bringing them in, who are paying a wage that is highly likely with its benefits and with having a 2-couple family, let's just say, to be able to afford a home. a single family home. But we also know that we have to have housing for rental. We have to have mixed use housing where there's townhomes and not standalone single family homes in the marketplace.
Because right now, I think the cost per square foot on a house, on an affordable house, is like almost $250 a square foot.
Right.
That used to be not too long ago. You could build a $400,000 or $500,000 house for that kind of money, and you can't do that anymore. So that's why I was wondering, what is the definition of affordable housing anymore, and who can afford it?
And I'll just say this is an issue, it's a ubiquitous issue, right? This is happening across the country. We know our housing costs here are actually lower than our other markets that we compete against. But that doesn't matter if the person still can't afford to get into their own home. So that mix of apartments and townhomes and standalones, and all those are going to be important to this.
Okay, very good.
How big a region is that 16,000? Is it Cass and Clay County? So all the communities
Yeah,
in Cass and
it
Clay
is.
County?
Yeah.
It is.
Does it take into account homes that are constructed today that turn over because of death, people moving out? Does it take into account a number there?
I'm assuming it does, but I don't have. I don't know that offhand. You could
Yeah, if you haven't seen that MetroCog study, it's a pretty fascinating one. But MetroCog did it, so it was the first time we've ever had a regional housing study by multiple municipalities. So
it's 168 pages of really good reading for anybody if they're interested. So besides workforce development, we have the business development piece. That's that next slide. And we'll move through these quickly. The business development really aligns with what we said is that goal of 130 some projects. Just know that most of that will be us supporting our existing primary sector companies. For the last decade, about 73% of all of the projects the EDC has worked on for primary sector companies have been existing businesses here. And they've been trying to make the decision, should I continue to grow here and expand here? And just so everybody knows, our clients don't have to stay here to serve their market. That's the underlying definition of a primary sector company. Microsoft can move its operations back to Redmond or down to Charlotte or others. John Deere, which we just helped expand, they didn't have to do that expansion here. Border States, which is building a huge regional distribution center, didn't have to do that here. So we work with those businesses to try to help them expand here. That's where most of the growth is going to be because that's historically how economies grow. But as Shannon said, there's also targeted sectors that make a lot of sense for this region, whether it's ag tech, whether it's autonomous system, biosciences. We have strengths in those areas where we differentiate ourselves in a meaningful way. And so we're targeting companies in those spaces to want to consider expanding and growing here, doing it in a way that we don't have a huge, what I would call negative impact on the sort of growth that we see needed for workforce to help fill those jobs. But we also know that the more diverse businesses we have here, the more likely somebody is going to make a decision to move here, because if they have trailing spouse and others who are looking for jobs, you need to see a lot of job opportunities in a marketplace. We're fortunate. This is a market of 270,000 people with 7 major industry sectors, multi-billion-dollar companies. It's rare you will find a market of this size having that kind of diversity, and we want to continue to grow that. And part of it that's because of the entrepreneurial ecosystem that's been here for 50, 100 years. And so we want to take advantage of that as well. So when you think about business development, we serve our own who are paying the bills, existing companies. We attract, which will be about 10 to 15% of that growth. And then about another 10% will be new companies developed here that are spun out of existing businesses. So that's our focus for business development, but we know we have to have good public policy in order to support that. So if you go to that next slide, there's a few things on that Shannon will highlight.
So the public policy piece is really important, especially to you guys as well. 3 main areas of public policy. The first and foremost is building connections and relationships across the state, both states. We do this through numerous different activities like our East-West tour. We just brought 31 business and community leaders to Minot and Williston to really create relationships and understanding of other parts of the state, but also making sure that we know those legislators really well. So when state legislation is being enacted, we have a voice in that. The second piece is obviously the advocacy and lobbying work of this. As you all are aware, the Chamber has a very robust legislative agenda, both in St. Paul and in Bismarck. We're in the process of putting that legislative agenda together right now. These are legislative agenda items that will allow us to continue to see growth and prosperity for our region. The airport request is one of those that obviously we're very tied into. It'll be part of our legislative agenda as well as our strategy as it relates to our messaging and lobbying in alignment with what all of you guys are doing as well. And then the third part of this, is probably the most exciting part, is a significant new focus on civic engagement. Standing up a Center for Civic Engagement, we are very concerned as we see the national stats as well as our local stats here on voter participation, on getting people to run for elected office, even if it is a park board, a school board, city council, city commission, county commission, all the way up to the state legislative side of things. We will be, with these funds through this initiative, standing up a Center for Civic Engagement that will focus on both the candidate, a toolkit to help candidates explore and then be successful in running for any type of office, but then also a very proactive approach with company leadership, so owners of companies, to proactively have the conversations with their employees on the importance of running for office. What are the risks and rewards to have somebody at your employment, an employee of yours running for office? What could be sample compensation plans? What do you do for PTO? Those types of things. So we're packaging all of that together. Included in that is we've already identified about 15 former or current elected officials that have offered to serve as mentors for both the candidates, but also mentors to go into companies, talk to employee orientations or employee meetings about the importance of serving in office. And so we're very excited about that work around public policy.
If you go to that next slide, because I know we just handled these last few and open up for any last questions you might have. We've already worked through as an organization and partners on who's going to lead these various initiatives. And so I know this is somewhat of an eye test for everybody, but just know on the left-hand side, when you think of public policy, when you think of the overall workforce development, facilitation, and organization, the Chamber's leading that. We'll be leading the workforce recruitment and the business development. I don't think it's a surprise to generally anybody when we share that, given the histories of our organizations and our missions. But we also have an MOU that's been put together to help guide as we go on this journey, because there will always be times when there's opportunities that come up, or there's areas where we may have a difference of opinion and we need to have documentation for how we work through that. That's the MOU. We'll have leaders from both of our boards as well as investors in this that are part of an advisory board that will be helping us and our individual boards. We remain separate organizations with separate boards, but this is a way for us to align to meet the needs of the community going forward.
And still addresses the accountability that it's expected by the community, as well as measurable outcomes, which you saw at the beginning, but also we have about 20 additional KPIs that we will be tracking success and metrics to that. So it's a pretty big, bold goal that we have. It'll be about a $5.86 million annual investment in this work. That currently includes all investment in the EDC, and then any investment we already have in public policy and the talent and workforce space, along with the additional pieces that we talked about that are going to allow us to achieve these goals. So a total, 4-year total, just under $24 million. If we look at that with our peers, oftentimes many are asking what our peer cities are looking like, what that market looks like. Sioux Falls, we'll use that one just because we seem to be compared a lot to Sioux Falls. We're looking at $5.86 million of annual investment, whereas Sioux Falls is at $11.7 million of annual investment for this same exact work. Very similar structure to our organizations. Now also keep in mind they've been doing a campaign like this for over 30 years, so they've got a tried, true, trusted method. But we did take a visit down there, and we are modeling a lot of our work after the work that Sioux Falls is doing.
These are just some impacts, broad impacts. It's the WIFM, right? Like why do companies or public sector or partners invest in what we're doing? We historically have done economic impact analysis on the work that we do, and we've done that for this project. Very conservative estimates going in based on our past history. So a lot of what we're sharing with you is we've done some of this work. The leadership says we want you to continue to do it, just go deeper to get the results and the goals that we're shooting for. We even have this information detailed out by various industry sectors. So construction, what's it mean to retail, what's it mean to healthcare and others. And that's the information we present when we have sort of a one-on-one with, let's say, a financial institution. Because this is a private public partnership. And as Commissioner Capitan knows, Cass County was one of the biggest leaders, I would say, if not the biggest leader, to step forward and put a goal, if you go to that next slide, to put a goal of upwards of 2.5 million in the budget for next year. With the understanding that we as a community would raise as much private income towards this initiative as we can. Here's just a list of some of the companies that are engaged in this. You've probably known each and every one of these by their logo and their history here in the region. We have another 50 or so pending asks where we've gone through and had these conversations, and we've made requests to the tune of about another 1.56 million of funding. There's about 1.2 million of private funding that's been committed to and signed off on. So we know, and the leadership knows, that in many respects this is new in our market, and we know that as we move into 25 and beyond, we'll continue to see organizations want to take part in this. That's what Sioux Falls has seen, over the 30 years. They started out at 1.6 million. Now they're over 11 million. When they do a campaign now, they have to almost organize people coming in to sign up for it. So they become very successful, and we think that as we move forward next several years, that'll be the case here as well. But we wanted to share who's on the honor roll with you at this. We want you to join the honor roll.
So again, we're very confident we'll meet the goal of 5.86 million, $2.5 million match with the county, 1.2 million already raised from private sector, another 1.6 million out in pending requests, and then we've got another 6 briefings where we're inviting additional private sector companies to come in and join us. And so we anticipate just over 300 companies to be targeted that are going to be invited to join us. And so we've got still a lot of work to do. The county's been gracious in their leadership and has extended us to the end of the year to bring in the private sector dollars, at which point they'll make the decision to then match those private sector dollars with the already committed budget dollars from the county. So it's very exciting work. It will definitely demonstrate a public-private partnership that will be really a catalyst for us for growth and prosperity into the future.
Yeah. One of the closest partners to the airport is obviously the work of the Jet Center and weather modification, and one of those briefings is going to be hosted by Jim Sweeney here next week. So really excited about how the different leadership groups in the region are leading into this.
So what we would appreciate consideration from all of you is to, so if we look at those different levels, that champion level is the $15,000 a year level. We obviously would welcome a greater investment, but we would love if you would consider that championship level at $15,000, which does include the $5,000 of your investment that is already committed to the Economic Development Corporation. So about a $10,000 new investment to you is what one of the ask that we would be making of you today. And not for your decision today, just for your consideration, and we can answer any questions or let us know whatever you're thinking.
But I'm okay if you decide, especially if it's a good decision.
So, any other questions that we can answer for all of you?
Discussion? Is there?
I'll just say that the airport success is not possible without the partnerships with both Shannon and Joe's organizations, along with Charlie at the CDD. So it's a real strong partnership. We're fortunate. So thank you.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks for coming.
Is there any interaction of this plan with the Valley Prosperity Partnership?
Say it again.
Is there any touch points of this plan with the Valley Prosperity Partnership?
Yeah. I mean, what's been great about that, Dean, is that over the last 2 years, as the VPP has evolved, both chambers, the local chamber and the Grand Forks chambers, joined the VPP in executive capacity. And actually, Shannon and I were just on a call with Keith and Barry last week, and our consultants looking at legislation for this session. We've been doing that for some time, but I think when it comes to public policy, we want to make sure that somebody has the tip of the spear, and that's the chamber. But we're still staying engaged in that because I know you've been involved quite a bit in the past with that, Dean.
Yeah, Dean. So for those that don't know, Valley Prosperity Partnership is a partnership agreement between Grand Forks and Fargo, really to look at how do we advance the interests of the east side and of the valley. And so it has really taken a focus of public policy and major projects. So things like the diversion and Red River Valley water supply, both of which are now in the works, and that those are going well. We have now some opportunities for some additional strategic planning with VPP, having the private sector investors weigh in on where they'd like to see the VPP continue to go. But this is in very strong partnership and alignment with VPP. In fact, we use and love the partnership so that we can use the GA group for some of our lobbying efforts as well with the chamber. So Dean, this is definitely not duplication, but really in alignment and amplification of the work that VPP is doing as well.
And this board, you should know, when we had our last steering committee, which is made up of all the members of the VPP, the airport funding issue at the state was listed as one of the focus areas. So there's a lot of support and alignment there.
Terrific news. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Is there a motion to approve the 25-28 Innovate 28 investment plan? Need a
Should
motion to
we-
approve?
Should we wait for a recommendation from our administrative staff?
Yeah, it is recommended to approve. It's on the agenda as receive and approve. So
And
my
so-
recommendation is to approve.
It would be an additional 10,000 from what we're currently doing.
Motion to approve.
A second.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Rashani,
Aye.
Cosgrove,
Aye.
Heckman,
Aye.
Captain.
Aye. Thank you very much. Number 2, receive the September financials.
Anna, are you on board?
I am here. Good morning. Let's see here. Just trying to see if you guys can see my screen here. I'm not sure which one we're looking at.
No, I can't quite bend over.
That's an Excel spreadsheet or something.
All right. Do you have the September recap up there?
No,
You showed it just a second ago.
it was there, but I went to a different one. There
There
you
you
go.
go.
It's there.
Okay. It says my other screen is sharing, so sorry for me being confused this morning. Good morning. I will make this very brief. Commissioner Berg and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of asked that now that we're past the 2025 budget and we're coming into the tail end of the operating or tail end of the fiscal year, just to kind of keep the operating fund recap brief. And so that's what I'm going to do today. And then I'm just going to show you a few KPIs that we started tracking and give you a quick recap on the terminal project. So if there's any questions or comments about the operating fund, please just jump in here in a couple minutes and let me know. But right now I'm tracking the revenue. The revenue looks great. We are on track to meet or exceed the revenue in our operating account. Our expenses are tracking lower than budget right now. So we're on track to be under budget for our expenses. There are a few items that are higher than budget, but those were noted in previous months and they have not changed. So overall, as far as net income goes in our operating account, right now we're on track to be over budget. I do not have any concerns at all with the operating account. Does anybody have any questions relating to the operating account?
Ken, on the the 3.5 million over budget, do you see that primarily defaulting into cash?
That will just end up in our savings account and just roll over into 2025 and be available for us to use for capital projects or any unforeseen expenses that come up in the operating fund as well.
Okay.
Moving on to these KPIs, key performance indicators, is something that we track and not something I will probably share monthly with you, but I think it's important to get it out there at least quarterly. And since the financials right now are through September, excuse me, through the third quarter, I just thought I would share the KPIs with you so you can see what we track. I've kind of marked out about 6 different highlights, and these all relate to the operating account. And off on the side, I have put the formula so you can kind of get a good indication of where the numbers are coming from. But we track the employments. It marks the employments annual growth. And the reason why the rest of the year shows 3.42, that's basically because that is our assumption. But as we go into each budget season, you know, Sean is well aware of, you know, tracking the employments as well. And so that annual growth assumptions will change. But for 2024, the airline revenue annual growth rate is negative 5.22%. And that is not a bad thing. Airline revenue accounts for like landing fees, terminal rents, and the ARF security and the ARF and security reimbursement. And the reason why the airline revenue growth rate is negative 5.22 is honestly a good thing. It's because we have less security and ARF reimbursements, but those reimbursements come from the expenses. So that just tells us that the security and the ARF expenses are lower than they were last year, which is why our reimbursements are lower. And therefore, that's why our annual growth rate has dropped a little bit. Airline cost per enplaned passenger, 4.6, $4.60. I think that's pretty average. I haven't done a lot of tracking at all this year throughout the region or what that is, but that is in the ballpark. It's what I've seen in prior years. Non-airline revenue growth rate, that's at 2.43%. And non-airline revenue is like the rental fees, the hangars, the building rents, the parking. That's where all of that comes in. And that is still tracking at 2.43% for the year, which is great. You will see that next year it takes a huge jump to 10.99%. And that is because parking falls into that non-airline revenue growth. And we are expecting about a $2 million increase in parking next year. That is why the growth rate is tracking super high for 2025. And then once our parking hits that limit, then for 26 and 27, we'll just be tracking at a regular percentage increase. The total revenue growth, the 17.76% negative, is not as bad as it looks. The reason why is because this growth rate is based comparing 23 to 24. And in 2023, we had grants that we received in our operating account. And if I look at about $4 million. So we received operating grants. Those were back from like the COVID and the CARES and the KIRSA grants and all of that. But we got $4 million in 23 for our operating account. And those expired and ran out in 2024. So that is why 24 does not look great, because we didn't get the grants. But you will see in 25, we are still increasing our total revenue. But in 26, it tails off because that is where the majority of our cash influxes are going to come for our projects that we have. So we know our revenue growth is going to be down. We know that is because our savings money is going to be tracking lower at that point. And we know the interest rate will probably be lower at that point. So the decline from 25 to 26 is going to have to do with the balances in our savings account and the interest we're earning on them. So not concerned at all about any of this, but I just wanted to put that out there. And it's something that I will include in the board packets quarterly so we can take a look at. Does anybody have any questions about the KPIs?
Tana, when we look at that and we see kind of the fluctuation, 24, 25, 26, it looks like 24, the 3.5 million surplus this year will be about half expense under budget and half expense or half revenue over budget. Is that kind of where that 3.5's coming in?
I could take a quick look here and see here. We'll be at about, let's see, about 800. Yeah, it honestly is. Expenses are probably a little bit more into it than the income, but you are correct.
Okay, and so as we look at our 25 budget, are we still comfortable with our projections there based on where we're going to end up this year? I know you've identified some really abnormalities between 24 and 25, but that's about what percent of our budget is that 3.5 million? Percentage wise, how big is that miss?
How big is what, the mess?
The miss on the 3.5 million.
It's not really a miss. I wouldn't say that. I mean, I would concur with Sean. I love to budget more conservative. And so if we always end up being over or under budget, I would love to say we came in on, over on revenue, under expenses. So I concur with Sean on that. The majorities are the salaries, but we had planned for more employees and things like that. And so that is where, I guess, if you're saying a miss, that is where one of the misses comes, is with salaries. But I'm okay if salaries come in under. Overtime's a little bit under. I'm good with that. Because that is a miss. But on the other side, we had some capital expenses like for snow removal fixes and things like that we didn't budget enough for. So I think those things, in the end, they all kind of wash each other out. As far as revenue, like the Fargo Jet Center is higher than we expected. The car rentals are coming in higher than expected. And so I don't really count them as misses. I guess I think that's a good thing. But I guess if you're looking for answers, those would be the ones.
Okay. No, when I call it a miss, it's just our ability to forecast. And I agree, you'd rather be under budget than over budget. But at the same time, as we're going to be going forward, making critical decisions on drawing down cash balances, borrowing money, the closer we can dial into what our true revenue picture looks like each year, the better we are. And so
what I think Sean has done a good job with that this year. I mean, it's always hard where it's hard is when you're figuring out what are our capital expenses going to be. I mean, say we budget 50,000 because if a piece of machinery goes down in the middle of winter, we should have that on the budget. But if it doesn't, that's great. But then it also gives us more money in our budget. But it's tough not to plan for that, because being in North Dakota, we should be planning for that and hope it doesn't happen.
Oh no, I'm not saying to take the guardrails off at all. It's trying to understand, as we've got competing needs, that as we look out, my question to you is, we had it looks like about a $3.5 million miss this year, right? In the operating cash, split equally between expenses and additional revenue. As we look at 2025, are you still comfortable that is a good projection?
I do at this point, because I don't see anything that in the operating account that is going to drastically change at this point.
Okay. And then the other one, and maybe you're going to get to this, we had a short conversation and I really would like to flesh it out a little bit more. But the other thing is, we're going forward now, we have, a couple big projects ongoing, capital's going out for that. We're in the process of applying, sort of having this wish list of here's what we hope we get and what we're getting, and that we talked a little bit about having some sort of tracking towards that. So if there is a source that we have identified and it's, comes in, either falls off entirely or comes in below that we build that in and start to look at that. And with that, as we go forward, look at our debt capacity. Because at the end of the day, what we have on hand, what we're hoping for in grant income, and our costs, that deficit at some point has to be talked about, either in scaling project back or finding additional sources of capital or borrowing money. And so that would help going forward.
Correct. So what I will jump in here and show you this here really quick. Let me see here. We do track exactly what you're saying, Commissioner. We track everything on a monthly basis based on the actuals that are coming through for all of the projects. We track all of the grants that are coming in, whether they are guaranteed or discretionary. And to be on the conservative side, when I look at a forecast like this, we are only assuming that those discretionary and competitive grants are going to come in at 50%. So if something is discretionary at 10 million, in our forecast, we're only assuming that we're going to get 5. So we're being very conservative, which means that if I say at this point, we're going to need to look at additional debt right now. Here we go. Right now, it looks like we're going to need some additional debt or take on additional debt in the fiscal year of 2027. However, if some of those discretionary grants come through at 100%, that may push when we are going to need debt to the end of 27 or into 28. And so we are tracking that, like I said, on a monthly basis.
Yep. No, and we should be, kind of just have a quick snapshot of that each month as we go.
And this is in your board packet. It's probably towards, I'll get to the page, but it is in your board packet, but I can just point it out each month and just, kind of show you where we are too.
Yeah, I just think we need to understand how we're moving to that, because again, this all goes back to the budget, surplus or deficit. It also then gets into the grants, and of course, as the grants convert to receive funds, we become more accurate, hopefully, towards the smaller misses available.
And so, well, in the forecast that I track, I don't just say we're getting it. Let's just talk about the state aid one. We know that's 60 million. In my forecast, it is built in there that we're getting 30 million. That's what, like the balance sheet and the sources summary, that's what I track this at. But I don't just say we're going to get that in fiscal year 2025. I have that mapped out as to exactly which month we think we're going to get grant funds and which months we are going to be spending. So we do have it really narrowed down, and I can sure go through that with you one day. It's just, it's an
I don't want to get deeper into it, but you know, very succinctly, we should be able to go through that. Because the other variable that we need to pick up in here is the cash versus debt decision, which is driven by what we're going to receive in the grant income. And so we've got to, you know, continually be looking at the balance between those and going forward. And the other thing driving that is debt capacity. I mean, it doesn't do us any good to be projecting that we're going to have to borrow more money than we have debt capacity to service. So that's all I'm looking for there. And I think
agree. And those conversations I have started with First International Bank and also with Baker Tilly.
Yeah.
We're a little too far out to start drilling into the details and stuff. And so I just keep in contact with them about kind of where we're at, kind of send them our financials so they can see. And as we get within that year time frame is when we'll really start honing in on now what is our true debt capacity, when are we going to need stuff. And so it's on the radar, it's just not front and center yet.
Yeah, I'm just saying let's get used to looking at it, let's get used to tracking it, and it won't be a surprise at the point it becomes a critical decision.
Okay. Agreed.
Yep, thank you.
So one more thing now I'm gonna bring up, and I hope this doesn't confuse you, because this whole time we've been showing like graphs and charts as to where each project is and stuff. But I had a conversation with Commissioner Berg, and he had provided me, in his words, his chicken scratch of what he would like to see. Sorry, just to briefly, the employments are also in here for you to review. And one more thing I have to note in the operating count on the parking. Right now, the parking is tracking $65,000 under budget for the end of September. However, we are on track still to meet the budget for the end of the year. So it's just something I'm just gonna not focus on, but just make sure I'm checking into every month. We're falling a little short of our budget for parking right now, just within this last month. So I will keep tracking on it for the fourth quarter, and it says we're 74% of budget right now. So we're about 1% under budget for end of third quarter. So I don't see any major issues there yet, but it's something I'm going to keep looking at. Okay, so on to Commissioner Berg's. What he would like to see is he wanted to see the 3 parking. And he wanted it to be simple, but it doesn't get simple when you want all the pieces of the information in there. But what we've tried to lay out here is for each project, we tried to show you where the funds are. So for this terminal expansion project only, we're saying right now there is secured funding of $42.8 million. If secured funding is like the AIP and the AIG grants or the ATP, the competitive and discretionary, that is also its own line. There's a PFC out there, and this amount is going to change. It is going to be reduced at least by half, would be my guess. So that change will be coming. And then it shows how much cash the airport is going to have to contribute to this project based on the expenses we have now. It also shows you what funding, of that guaranteed secured funding, it shows you what has been approved. And then it shows you what is pending. And the approved and the pending equal the total funds. The footnotes below list out everything that is approved and everything that is pending. And why there is some pending guaranteed funds are because those do not come in until 2025 or 2026. And so we know they're guaranteed funds, we just don't have them yet. Of the approved funds, this is what we have received in grant reimbursement. So about 7.4 million. Because I know you guys all know this, but just because a grant is approved doesn't mean that money automatically hits our bank account. It means that is what we can ask for reimbursement for based on our expenses. And so of the 32 that's been approved, we've received 7.4 million. We've also put out about 9 million in airport cash for this project at this time, because our expenses were 16 million. So that is just a breakout of this project. I don't know if it's helpful to you or not, but it does list the grants that we have attached to the project at this time. The other project that's out there is the apron expansion and the glycol. And this one is a little bit more straightforward because there is only one funding source for now. This may change, and I'm guessing it will change. We've secured funding of 8.5 million that has been approved. There's no other funding on this project at this time, meaning that the airport cash that will go into this project is 11.8 million. Right now, we've used about 512,000 of the airport cash because that is the expenses on this project. If we look at the apron reconstruction, this one is also pretty straightforward because there are no expenses on this project yet, but it is a project tied to the terminal. So we have secured funding. We also have discretionary funding, and all of those are pending. And they're pending because they're coming in 2025, 2026. And it shows the airport cash investment on that as well. I'm assuming these fundings will change. I know there's AIP entitlements, there's cargo and stuff. And so once Sean and I and Mead Hunt and Tom Schauer meet, we will firm these up, and I try to keep them as up to date as possible. But I know by the end of the year, I'm going to sit down and we'll go through and make sure all of the funding sources are accurate, so we all have the same information. So just to go back and give you the recap of the terminal projects, this is a summary of the 3 projects. And I guess right now, the biggest line to look at would be this airport cash. Right now, we're at about 28 million of airport cash, but I know this PFC will probably come down at least 3 million. So we're going to be at about 31 million of airport cash, which right now does tie into our budget. It is feasible. It does work. But like Commissioner Cosgrove said, we are going to have to start taking a look, you know, past 2027 when the additional other projects start coming due. Which projects are we going to go forward with? Which are going to be put on hold? And that's something we will take a look at down the road. But for right now, the terminal projects are I'm all good with in the cash forecast. And the parking one I am good with right now. We have the $40 million loan from the Bank of North Dakota. We've been reimbursed about 5.5 million. We've spent about 1.8 out of our pocket. And that will also be reimbursed at some point as well until we reach the 40 million. So right now for the parking, we're estimating about 3.1 million out of airport cash, and that fits into our funding plan now. That is all built in. So I don't have any concerns with the terminal projects that are out there at this point or the parking. But like I said, everything is fluid. with the grants that come in or the grants that we're hoping to get and don't get, or we get all of them. So it's ever changing. So I will keep you guys all updated on that.
Montana, there is potential for good news. It's that if we start running at 80–90% of grant requests, things get better quick.
Exactly. Exactly.
And Tana, just to clarify, the 65,000 lower parking, is that from 1 month or what is the
No,
time?
that is from January through September.
Okay.
Yep, so we're about 65,000 under budget through September. We should be at 5 million. We're at about 4.9, whatever. So nothing that I'm concerned about yet. Usually the last quarter of the year, employments will go up with the holidays and stuff, and with the employments going up, parking should go up. So I don't have any concern, but I've just been tracking it because I know we have the short-term lot closed, and so it was just something I've been keeping an eye on.
Thank you.
Any other questions on any of the financials?
None?
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Okay. Number
Thanks,
3.
Tana.
Move to receive and file.
Okay, have a motion to receive and file the September financials.
John just did. I can second it.
Roll call, please.
Shawnee.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Number 3, receive update from TL Store Architects.
Can't
You're
hear
on,
you.
but you're you're up, Terry.
I just wanting to take a look at a couple of things this morning. So the project is going very well. As you can see out there, super fun looking at it on the webcam. I looked at it yesterday, I looked at it this morning, and you can see progress even just in a day. So it's really going well. One of the things I wanted to share with you is, and I know you guys been briefed about it, but so originally when we were talking about taking this skyway and putting it in the terminal, we thought the elevators and finishes would be part of that, and we found out through Tom Feller and stuff that he said and so we bid that out, and we see right here and CMP 5, 1,234,561 is basically majority of the 2 elevators, and then finishes all the lobbies of
Terry, can you hold on for a second? Terry,
Terry, hold on.
I'm having a really, really tough time hearing you. It's like you're in a echo chamber.
Okay, hold on. One second. Better? No?
Not much.
I'll get it down there.
Nope.
I'll get it down.
Not much. About the same. It'd be better if you were here.
Okay, how's this better?
Better. A little better.
A little better? Okay. So that's what we did that just a few weeks ago and added that to our final numbers on the terminal. You'll see that we still have we're under budget right now by $879,250. We have in your packet, it says that, we've got $70-some thousand of work that we have or added to the contingency. And about half of that, I want to show you. So we have this construction contingency, and the original construction contingency was around $1 million. We also have a owner contingency, which we haven't obviously spent anything yet, and that doesn't show up on these numbers. So, and that's right around $800,000. So financially, we're doing great. What we have here is some changes that we're taking out of construction contingency. First of all, we have these two roofing companies. The first one actually is doing some metal soffits around our lobby area during the process of doing precast drawings, which is very involved. We probably had a weekly meeting for 2 weeks or every week for at least 2 months, and verifying between their drawings, our drawings, structural drawings. And so we had to make some tweaks, and so we ended up with a deductive. We took some soffit out and added and Herzog some roofing in. One of the things that we did was during the precast walkthrough and going through everything, we had originally put precast walls on the inside to make like electrical closets and utility spaces, and determined that it made more sense to make them out of masonry. Well, we'd already given the mason a purchase order or contract, and we hadn't with the precaster yet, so we ended up thinking it would be less expensive and easier to do by making them masonry. So that's what this $22,220 is. And then again, we did this thing. We got it out really fast, and Olympic Companies is the screening company. And if you remember going out and looking at that screen that we had put in that hole, they determined after giving us a price that their engineers determined they needed more support for wind loads, and they asked for $13,850. They were still a low bidder regardless if we gave them or not, and we felt that was fair to do that. They told us up front, and so we ended up spending another $34,836 of the contingency, but we're still at $879,000. We don't think we'll come even close to using that. So that's a great deal. One of the other things that we're wanting to talk about today is we have this parking equipment between last parking and what SP Plus is proposing, and I believe that was in your packet. It's through lots of so we had Walker Parking do some analysis for us, and that's what that kind of pros and cons list that you got was. And one of the things we did find out, and was talking to Greg from SP Plus, was the fact that so they're doing, this other system in San Antonio. And one of the things that they determined is parking people are just used to gates, and technically their system doesn't have to use gates, but it can use gates. And so that's something that can set from an airport perspective, everybody just used to it. So, they kept the gates in it. And so, so all the money that we were talking about, not running conduit out there for gates and stuff, we still are going to be spending that. We actually found out that we were pricing all new equipment, which we were able to use 4 of our gates over, so we got that changed, and we'll be revising that price once you guys make that decision. I believe Walker's, and we have, I think we have somebody on the line from Walker. They basically feel the flash parking is just a little more foolproof. It's maybe not as convenient in some instances in terms of rolling down windows and stuff, but I think they're worried about cars sitting outside and getting dumped on, and basically their car readers and stuff not being able to identify the car. We still need the gates. Anybody can run the flash system. SP Plus is running it now. So I believe their recommendation is to stay with flash.
So Terry, if the board can, there's 2 decisions for you to make today and approve. One, the first would be someone to make a motion to receive and award guarantee maximum price number 5 for the parking ramp in the amount of $1,234,561. So if you can take care of that now, then we can move on to the flash thing. And Brian from Walker is on to answer any questions on that.
Okay, is there a motion to receive and award the 1.2 million?
So I couldn't hear very well. Is this an additional cost, the 1.2?
No, it's included in the budget. It's just that they just went out for bid for that.
It's additional.
Okay.
Yeah, it's additional cost, yes.
It's included in the 38 million total that Terry noted, and we're still under budget, the 872 from the original construction budget. But GMP 5 is additional. Right now we have no elevators, no tile, no carpet, no acoustical ceilings or flooring for the elevator lobbies. So that part of the job was broken out and originally included in the Skyway. We pulled it back out of the Skyway due to funding and bid it as part of the parking room project. So it was always a part of the construction budget. It's just not technically under our contract right now.
Correct.
And why you wouldn't need? I guess you wouldn't need an elevator.
There's 2 elevators, and
okay.
then it's the finishes for all the lobbies, levels 1 through 4.
So there's no way to tie that elevator project to the Skyway, which is potentially available for.
No, not anymore.
Yeah, that's what was determined, Paula, was it wasn't going to be allowed for them. So.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Rashani?
Aye.
Aye.
Ekman?
Aye.
Temptam?
Aye.
So next, your packet had a technical review of Metropolis and the flash system that Walker Consultants did. Brian is on there to answer any questions, but as Terry said, the recommendation is to move forward with the flash equipment and consider Metropolis in the future. So, thing within the packet. Brian, do you have anything to add?
I think I put it all in there. I tried to be, well, of course, fair and say there are a few advantages to the Metropolis side. It's just very new, and it really hasn't been used in. I mean, I guess there's the San Antonio thing that perhaps is going in. They say it's going in, or is starting to go in, but it'd be very, very cutting edge, and we just tried to identify some problems, like snow, and then, can't see the license plate, and then the snow melts, and now it can see the license plate. So when did you come in? Just really kind of all those sort of anomalous things that can happen. And there's no ticket to back it up. And I think that's the kind of the critical thing is when you have the flash system, you always can go back to the ticket and say, well, look, it says you came in at this time there, and, unless you lose it or something. Whereas Metropolis does not have that available. So you're entirely relying upon being able to get the the license plate and being able to have these people sign up for the service. I kind of went through all of that, kind of mined all those different sort of scenarios and put it into that packet and just said, here's this and here's that. So if any of you have any specific questions on it, I guess I could entertain that or try to answer for you if you'd like.
Brian, this is Dean Brashani. Am I remembering right or wrong that the system identification is somewhat of a triangulation between the plate, the make and model of the car, and the recognition of the driver? So it is a concern, if that's accurate, is a concern over plate identification a real showstopper problem?
Well, so I don't think it's actually the driver. I mean, I don't think they're trying to get somebody's face and try to use that, but I think they are saying, okay, here's the red Buick, whatever, something, when it's perhaps has a bike rack on it or has some bumper stickers, and that's great. And the thing with that is it can really help you say, I saw this car and it came in and I saw it leave. But the key thing is trying to figure out, okay, who am I going to charge for that? If you can't see the license plate, you can't, I mean, there could be 50 or 100 or however many red Buicks with, whatever bike rack on the back. So it's kind of a two-step thing. It's to say, I know this is the same car, but also I know who you are. So that was the concern I tried to convey in some of the things that I wrote.
That makes total sense. Thank you.
Brian, how much, if we go with existing technology, we're going to spend X dollars. With this, we have concerns about advanced technology, but that's where we want to be eventually. So what's the delta between them if we go with flash and a year from now or whatever, they've got this system perfected, and we don't even know if it's not perfected yet, I guess, but what's the additional cost look like?
Well, I mean, to trade it out would be probably mostly to start from scratch. I mean, you could probably reuse the gates, so you'd be somewhere. Yeah, and I should also point out, you can add LPR to the flash system too,
right?
Which many airports do. So then you have a ticket and a license plate. So then if somebody loses their ticket or intentionally gets rid of their ticket, you still have a license plate. Whereas on the Metropolis system, you have the license plate and maybe some characteristics of the car. And honestly, all of the LPR companies are working on, incorporating the characteristics of the car, and maybe Flash could talk further about how far they are on that particular aspect of it. It's just that the Flash system is two things, and you don't have to sign up for anything. Not everybody's going to want to sign up, and think about the first day where nobody is signed up, or nearly nobody is signed up, and then for maybe the first month. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, eventually it probably would settle into a pattern of relatively good use. I think. I don't know. It's all relatively new. It's all actually quite new to use it as the only credential is to use only the characteristics of the car, and particularly the license plate.
What Metropolis, you're saying that there's really only one installation at this point? Is that
at an airport? They have many other installations, and in certain circumstances that are not airports where you don't need gates, it's actually quite an excellent system. I think that they're going to do very well. Our corporate wisdom at Walker, when I talk to my colleagues, is probably airports are going to be the toughest thing for them to do because there's so much money involved and the stays are so long, and it's so important not to let anybody go, like to get away. So that's our collective wisdom at Walker, is that airports are probably the last place where they finally maybe get this going. And it seems like it's very early.
It is Metropolis willing, I guess they've only done one airport, but they obviously want to get this right. They want to introduce it into airports. Are they willing to enter into any type of partnership or agreement to say, hey, if we have to, we'll pay to put people in a booth back out there while we get it working. I hate to shy away from technology that we all know has been accelerating continually, and we go with a system based on existing technology. 6 months from now, all these issues are solved. We're asking.
Well, I can't speak for Metropolis. You could certainly negotiate anything you want to try to negotiate. Maybe they would want to do that. I don't know. It seems like they would be putting themselves at great risk, but I don't speak for them.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Paul?
Brian, can you tell us the difference between installing the Flash system as opposed to the Metropolis system? And also, if we do choose the Metropolis system, are we tied to S&P long term?
Yes. To answer your second question first, that is a proprietary system. Metropolis bought SP Plus, so that is now their thing. They sell. Not that they won't. They certainly will operate a Flash system or anybody else's gated system. So the difference is as you drive up, you would still have a mechanical device. You still have a gate. You have just a camera. You don't have anything to issue you a ticket. You don't have a kiosk. You don't have any kiosks at all, whether it be the entrance or the exit. So in both cases, you're doing without those things. And the advantage to Metropolis there is that there's fewer mechanical devices, but there's not none. You're still, if the gate is broken, someone's going to have to get out there with a wrench and fix the gate, or whatever happens. You have to deal with that. What was your first question again? I'm sorry, I went around in a circle a little bit.
The first question was, what is the price difference between the two systems?
So we didn't really do a financial analysis. I think that their model is that, so their business model is they want to collect all the data on all these people and have them be able to go to any Metropolis site. So they're probably, I believe that it was that they would put in the system at their own cost, and yet they would want a much longer term because they need to amortize that cost over a longer period of time, if amortize is the right word. So I didn't really do a financial analysis, but and that wasn't my task. One of the things to note is the service fee. I believe it's $295, which if somebody just comes in and picks up somebody at the airport and stays for half an hour, it basically, I think, doubles your fee, or is it more than double your fee? So it's sort of like a Ticketmaster model where the consumer is paying this fee continuously. I guess that's as far as I've gone with the analysis of the numbers. It's not really in my purview to run out numbers and see how they work. But obviously that can be done.
It's just hard to make a decision if we don't know the difference between the two.
Joe, what was the budget for Flash?
Just under 800.
So just under
The
800,000.
current system has drawn with Flash.
I think that the Flash has identified that includes the parking guidance system, which is a big number. So if you're trying to do apples and apples, you need to make sure that it is the Flash system only versus the Metropolis system only, and not the parking guidance system, which is a completely separate thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's great.
I can vouch for that from the standpoint. I talked to Scott and the Walker, and he said that the dollars for the tracking system he thought really expensive, but he said he's seen that in other everybody's going to it. So there's a lot of parking ramps that never had one that they're putting them in now. and there's a lot of demand for them. So he was saying that over half of that $800,000 was going to be the parking guidance coning system, which seems really expensive. I don't think we have any alternatives to it.
So Flash
Yeah, I'm
will
on as well,
supplement
Sean,
their system
just to let you know.
without
So,
the guidance. Sorry.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah,
no,
hello,
I was just thinking,
pardon me, this is Scott Fremming, adding to some of the discussion related to cost. The Flash system is an augmentation of your existing system, so the existing lots and exit plaza remain functionable. With the installation of a Metropolis system, they would also have to do augmentations and curb realignments and other work at the exit plaza and the other alternate lots. So I think in totality, the installation of the Flash system just being an addition to the system and more functional and accessible and usable with the existing geometries and curb layouts at the exit points, that the installation of the Flash system is a much smaller endeavor at this stage. And also includes the APGS system, which was not acknowledged with the Metropolis information package.
And so, for instance, Mr. Chair, if we did decide to stay with Flash, then we still have the ability to put out an RFP for our parking. Because we're not
Yes.
tied to that.
Correct. You're not committed to SP Plus, because if you go to Metropolis, it makes SP Plus very sticky, because a new vendor would likely have to install, or the airport would have to install new equipment, because they would not operate the Metropolis system.
Mr. Chair, just trying to get a lay of the land here.
Gregory, you're still on?
yes, I am.
You have anything to add?
Yeah, if I could, I appreciate the chance to speak. Several things I do want to correct just for clarity. Again, just last time I know we met, I did mention that, and I think Brian said it as well. We're willing to operate any system, so that's never an issue for us, whether it's Flash, TIBA, whoever that may be. The thing I do want to point out is I'll work my way backwards on this. The fee structure is tiered. We would never charge 50% fee on top of a parking ticket that's an hour or 2 hours. We're doing the same thing right now in San Antonio that we're launching on Friday. And obviously, we're not going to expect passengers to pay a $3 fee on a $3 parking stare or whatever the case may be. So we have that technology built out to where we can structure it pro rata share to the amount of the ticket. The other item I like to point out is that we're actually running side-by-side systems in San Antonio as well. So we would not have to change the geometry or anything of that with respect to the other lots. So if you wanted to see the systems work side by side, you would have that ability on the economy lots to keep Flash, or yank the Band-Aid off and move forward with how you see fit. Hub is still controlling the lots in San Antonio for the economy parking. I'm sorry, not economy, employee parking for the time being. That'll be changed out soon as well, but we're just kind of approaching this as a phased approach. Phase one is to do all the public parking spaces. So we have seen where we can do side-by-side systems if that's the desire as well, with the long-term vision of obviously switching it out. What else was discussed? Giving away revenue. San Antonio Airport generates roughly north of $40 million in revenue and parking on an annual basis. Obviously, I don't think they would have agreed if we would just let people out the gates willy-nilly and just put all our stock into a license plate. Again, we capture up to 7 images of the vehicle. And if you get to the gate and you're not a member, you don't have to be a member. You can text by phone to pay to get out, or we can have a mobility specialist assist you at the gate if you want to even pay in cash. So, putting your card on file and becoming a member is not the only way you can exit our lots. The biggest benefit is you can enter all of our lots without having to pull a ticket, do anything friction regarding friction, hoping the ticket spitter spits out a ticket. All of those things that cause you to have issues at entering the lots. Once you pull over on that loop, the gate arm opens, go into the lot, and you can go about your trip. That's the benefit. And then obviously we never pull boots off ground, just hoping the system works, because every system's going to have its issues, and that includes Metropolis. But at the end of the day, we don't let people out just freely, hoping that we collect the revenue one day.
Mr. Chair.
Right.
Greg, if the airport decides to go with Metropolis, then what sort of length of contract would you be looking at to recoup your investment? And what is the cost difference for the airport to install Flash as opposed to Metropolis?
I mean, I would have to, just being very transparent, I think initially we were asking for 5 years, but as far as the exact cost, I would have to really, put something together in the form of a proposal and kind of say, hey, these are the locations that you're looking at changing, whether it's the garage and long-term or whether it's the entire campus, and then come back with a number. But I would say 5 years is somewhere around the sweet spot. And that is an accurate statement. If we do put the system in, more than likely, we're going to need to be your parking operator. So I totally agree with that. That is the case. But yeah, I'm thinking we would be looking at somewhere around a 5-year term, but I can get you some costs if that's of interest.
Hey, Greg, Brian here. Can I just ask one thing? Because you mentioned that you could do a partial system where, the long-term lots or the surface lot is one thing and the ramp is another thing. And yet they all funnel back to a single exit plaza. And I think it would be important to understand how a partial system could work when you have a single exit plaza where everybody goes to the same place.
Correct. So that's why in the first discussion, I was advocate of saying whatever we choose for the garage, we need to choose for long term because of that shared exit plaza. I'm speaking to the economy lots that are side by side of the long term and the short term, or the garage. Those lots can remain on whatever different system because they have a separate exit independently. So you're right. The short term or the garage, soon to be garage.
You're talking about the
would need to be together.
Lots.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I know what you mean now. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Greg, the parking guidance system, where's that fit in?
Sure. So we did not look at that, and that's 100% correct, just because we were initially talking about this like an apples to apples comparison. We use Park Assist in San Antonio. So we play well with parking guidance. We can pull occupancy counts through parking guidance systems, or we have our own API that can do the same thing. So to answer your question, it is a separate cost, but we work beside, or we can tie to them as well with an API.
I'm kind of trying to figure out what we're comparing here. I can see benefits to each side, but I really don't have a feel for what are the costs of the two different systems. And I'm wondering if there's any way we can get to that within the time frame of when you're asking for this decision.
Yeah, it's February is when Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I can turn around a cost if that's of interest as soon as you want. Again, I just want to echo the sentiments. We want what's best for the airport. I'm not pushing any agendas by any means. So whatever the airports decide, if the path move forward, we want to be partners with you guys regardless either way. So, but I can get your cost if that's of interest.
McGough would like a decision by the February meeting, so there is time to put together more details.
Well, and who could do that?
The sooner the better. Right now, Flash includes the parking guidance system. It's just the counter as you go up to the ramp. So there's cameras as you go to each level. Right now, that's how I understand the parking guidance.
But is it directing you to open spaces or just counting?
Yes.
So that
right now,
Mr. Chair, Joe. So with the with the economy lots, there's the arm, and that could be a separate entity because those cars don't have to exit through the exit plaza.
Correct.
Right? Okay, so if with the parking garage, that has an exit as well. So do those cars, the way this is mapped out, have to exit through the exit plaza, or they can just go out on the road?
I believe they still go through.
Exit plaza.
They do go through the exit. Okay.
Exit plaza.
Okay.
It wouldn't be difficult from the standpoint of Greg putting together some numbers and not only having him price the Metropolis system, but also the car counting stuff, so they could get kind of a proposal together for the whole thing. We still are, again, we're still using gates. We're still going to do that. So, and we have some existing gates that are only a couple of years old that we're going to reuse. So we need to do a little coordinating between Flash and Metropolis and SP Plus in terms of what parts have to be done from one company versus the other. But I think we can get that information, so we would have a dollar amount for Metropolis completed and dollar amount from Flash Parking completed.
Okay, what are your wishes? You want to make a motion now, or a motion to table, or a motion to accept one or the other?
Well, I would make the motion to do the analysis of both systems and bring us back a comparison at our December meeting.
Okay, second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. Receive update regarding construction contingency.
That's already in
That's
there.
already
That
in
was
there?
just for your information. It's already, Terry mentioned that.
Okay. How about the updated project for the parking ramp?
That's the same thing.
Same thing, okay. Number 4 then, receive proposed lease amendment from Skydyne regarding lease extension related to their proposed monetary investment in furniture and fixtures in the answer terminal.
Dustin is here, all the way through.
Good morning, I'm Dustin with Skydyne, and just here to answer any questions you might have, but I'm going to go back a little bit. I was asked if I could help financially with the project and all construction going on here, so we proposed a lease extension with an investment of $1,080,000, and so that's what's before you today for consideration. And of course, I appreciate the partnership and your trust in us, and we look forward to continuing that, of course.
Okay. What are your wishes?
Dustin, I think that Rick Berg had asked for the details of what the 10-year contract would look like, or a proposal if you wanted. I know that the funding is tied to a longer lease. And so I think that was what we were looking for.
The lease in the lease.
Yeah, this is it.
I don't have a packet. It's just online. Okay. All right.
So he provided exactly what he was asked for.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, as we look at this, you're the expert and you'll have all the least language, but do we know what we're anticipating as far as restaurants and food services as tying back to the equipment? What? Yeah, that's the piece I'm still struggling with. I mean, if you're going to put a Burger King in, you need a flame grill.
Construction process, and from Brandon identify that, but all the equipment package, I mean, it's basic setup, basic food service for the most part. The kitchens, have fryers and grills like any other kitchen. The bar is the bar with bar systems and tap and all that stuff. So they designed it all with us. We looked at it and approved it and know that we can work within that footprint, right? No matter what we put in there, no matter if we put a Subway in there or a local sandwich brand in there, we know we can work within that footprint and allow that.
Do the franchises have their own equipment packages? I mean, you can't run a McDonald's through a generic kitchen. So
yeah, and in the specific things, part of in the lease agreement, in the specific things, and signage is an easy one, right? Because a Subway sign can never be used for anything else other than a Subway. So signage or specific equipment that's franchise, specific. Those are individual pieces that we'll still pick up on our own, right? So I don't anticipate a lot of those because it's I'm not putting I don't plan on putting a McDonald's in. Obviously McDonald's is that kind of the angle that we're looking for, but coffee shop, right? All those different components: bar, restaurant, sandwich shop, those kinds of things. Grill, those are all included and all part of the equipment project that Brandon and Halverson and their crew and their team have.
Well, maybe I'm jumping ahead of you, but the only thing I recall in discussion is a Schlotzsky's and a Cinnabon.
Yep. So
is that where we are?
No, we haven't finalized and nailed those down yet. My agreement was by the end of the year to have those to you. Right around whatever the next board meeting or two is. And so we're working through those negotiations now. I've got a couple of different coffee shop programs that I'm talking to, and I'll be meeting with those later on. Local brands, coffee brands, one's an ACDBE, one is not. Both pretty well respected. Same way with the sandwich shop. I'd prefer to go with a local sandwich program versus the Schlotzsky's or something else, but we have those as backups, and the footprint is relatively the same. So, and they both have the Schlotzsky's has a little hood system, so you can toast the sandwiches and all those things. We're working within the same footprint that we designed with Brandon and his team over the last year. So.
Mr. Chair, Dustin,
Yes.
Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or up today. So I think I kind of echo Commissioner Cosgrove's concerns. Like, say if we had a bagel place as opposed to a Cinnabon, you're going to need completely different equipment. Or, for instance, we had a jail beers that can make a burger in 90 seconds. It's different than just a regular grill. So I hesitate to approve specific equipment until we know what type of food service we'll have. And I think I'm happy to have the lease or the proposal presented, but I don't think I'm ready to make a decision today on it until we find out what the product or your offerings will be.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, and the part of the plan was the game plan was to have those by the end of the year to you, and so we could work through those. But again, it'll be a coffee program. Whether it's a bagel or a Schlotzsky's or sandwich program that meets that bar grill program. The equipment it's 2 years out, so the equipment won't be ordered probably till they get within us 9 months or 6 months of actually needing it. Okay. So if we needed to swap out one griddle for another griddle, it's an appliance underneath the hood that's already spec'd and everything. So those are components that are easy to change out, I would say. And if there's a branding thing, like I said, if it was a signage thing, those are things I'm doing on my own dime.
Okay.
Over and beyond the million.
Okay. So we're in the home stretch then. So if we waited to decide on approval or not approval of the lease, we're getting close to hearing your final proposal.
If it's your wish to wait,
what are your wishes?
Mr. Chairman, one other question. The alcoholic beverage license, what do you anticipate there?
That's a tough for the open. Talk about the open beer program, or what are you referring to?
Well, what's the proposal and what's the who's going to own the license or operate the license?
Very typical of how we do it now. The airport owns the license. We operate underneath of that.
Yeah.
Our setup, we control the ins and the outs, to meet the local.
And what do you anticipate in that layout? totally separate?
No, well, it's not totally separate. No, it's all part of the bar lounge area, which is connected to the other food areas. The same proposal that Brandon had proposed a number of times in the past. It's the same layout, right? So hasn't changed. So.
And that's part of this $1.80 million, or that's
And
just restaurant?
What we're proposing to do is simply fund it. I think in the agreement it has it's $270,000 every quarter while we're under construction. We just pay it to the airport. The airport buys the equipment or uses it for whatever in those areas, or through Brandon, because they have all that equipment fairly stacked, for the most part, right? But we can swap out if it's a particular fryer or a particular piece of appliance. Those can be switched out relatively easily before we go into the purchase part of that, which is still 2 years out, so it's a little time there.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if we could have a little more clarity to it with understanding by year end what it is. It doesn't sound like it's going to change much, but.
And I certainly have some proposed brands I could discuss with you, maybe offline or something, without making them. I haven't finished negotiations with them or signed anything that's binding with them yet, so I didn't want to divulge that quite yet. But in a private conversation, I could certainly do that. So,
Mr. Chair, I thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
And thank you for the proposal. And I think that I'll be ready to vote on the proposal when we know what the whole package is. So, if we love the restaurant offerings and food offerings that then I'd be more ready to decide on 10 years. So can we decide? So could we? I make a motion to accept the lease agreement and to wait to vote on approval or not until after you come to us with the restaurant choices.
So the motion is to accept the lease agreement, but wait.
Like to file, accept and file.
Receive and file.
Receive and file. I'm sorry, receive, not accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin.
Item 5, receive update from Eden Hunt regarding passenger terminal expansion modification project. Brandon.
Hey, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Well, I'm sure you've seen the progress or have noticed progress out on the terminal addition and the parking ramp. It looks fantastic. Like I said, when you're working with precast panels, it's pretty amazing once you get the foundations in how quickly the building takes shape. So we are not only enclosed with the precast panels up around the perimeter, but they're also working on the second floor slab on steel deck, as you probably noticed, and they'll wrap up the pours on that this week. The glue laminated timber structures will start arriving, I think Joe said, on the 18th, and then they'll start erecting those on the November 20th. So that is just around the corner. Another exciting milestone. Then the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing underground work on the first floor underneath that second floor deck, that'll begin on the 18th. Once all that underground work is completed, then they'll pour the concrete slab on grade, and that'll likely be around December. So that is what's on the horizon as far as schedule. And any questions on schedule or constructions going on out there?
Anything?
It's exciting. It's fun to be at the stage where you're really seeing some progress. So thank you.
Okay.
It is. Yeah. Okay. And then looking at budget, now Terry had touched on this. talking about the Skyway construction cost that's being rolled into the terminal expansion project, even though I have to give credit to Terry and his team. They did the design on the Skyway, but that's being rolled into the terminal project because of its eligibility. And as they mentioned, the elevators in the parking ramp and the elevator lobbies and stuff, those are not eligible. So that is why they're being separated out. So it simply is moving funds from one project to another, which is it was anticipated, and giving credit to McGough here, they had budgeted about $6.3 million for the Skyway, and the current estimate, I think the approval of the GMP you just gives kind of closes that out at 5.1 million. So again, it came in under, which was really good news. So I know it's a lot of it's almost like a shell game, but it's all due to maximizing your eligibility for federal funding. Any questions on that?
Brandon, did I hear that the Skyway project is moved to next year? Or when would the Skyway be installed or built?
I would turn around and look at Joe Casper, because I think he can probably tell you exactly when that is.
Yeah, so right now our schedule has that slated to start in the spring. It's a little bit of a long duration of construction and finishing in winter of 26. It's a little bit over a year, but we have a lot of questions to answer on mainly the extra lane going in, and do a lot of logistics work on whether or not that lane actually happens, and then how we're going to build the Skyway and keep the lanes open. But all that work does bid out this Thursday. So we'll be going through the same GMP process that we just went through for 5R for the ramp with the Skyway. But right now the schedule has it starting spring of 25.
Okay. I thought we approved the additional lanes. No? I thought we voted on it.
You did. You actually said if, yeah, I think that's been a done deal in terms of voting on the additional lane. Correct.
Then we would just need to, we don't have any of the designer drawings.
Yeah, that's Jeff and his team is working on that.
Yeah,
But
Jeff's wanting to wait until like after the ramp is up and just really making sure we know where everything's at. We really do feel we need that road to be able to build the Skyway, to be honest with you. So so that is in the plan. It's just Jeff is waiting for a little more clarity on when that building is completed and what we have to deal with and that kind of thing before we put that together. So we'll be doing that this winter.
Mr. Chairman, Terry, is the road part of the terminal or the parking ramp?
It's part of the parking ramp, I believe.
Okay, but that was voted on and approved, correct?
Correct.
Just so we're all.
It hasn't been awarded, right?
Hasn't been
It
awarded.
just hasn't been awarded yet because we haven't designed it and bid it out yet.
If Tom showers on, but that road is technically eligible for federal funds, we believe.
Tom, even on?
Concept is not, but it is. There's more discussions to have with the FAA, but I believe they're going to allow that road to be eligible.
Oh, really? Okay.
If the road is eligible, then we would want it to be a part of the terminal project, not the parking garage.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
right. So yeah, I think those are all details we need to work through. But yeah, in the interest, we do have two, as you guys know, two very big projects going on, and we want to wait until the dust settles on those. We get enclosed and we start working on the interiors of them. So it's not as disruptive. You don't have heavy equipment. So then we can focus on the Skyway and try to isolate disruption operations, drop off and pick up. So.
Okay, we need a motion on the updated budget Skyway cost.
That's just FYI.
Oh,
That's
Yep.
Station again?
Yep.
All right.
So
we're actually
And-
we're actually bidding that the Skyway this Thursday. So I'm not sure if we'll have something for the December meeting, for sure the January meeting.
Okay.
all right. So Brandon, maybe you want to talk about AeroCloud?
Yeah. So that was next up. So the common use system that we are incorporating into the airport, this is a common use to maximize your flexibility in using in gate use, so that it's not proprietary United, proprietary Delta, albeit we do have preferred gates for Delta, United, and American Airlines, but for the rest, we want to maintain flexible, so your gate use can flex with maybe the surge of Delta or of flights coming in and out. So there's a software system that's out there that is used, and that is called AeroCloud. There were others that were within specifications as allowable and comparable that are used at many airports worldwide, as well as AeroCloud. So through competitive bidding, AeroCloud came in and they won this project. They were one that was under acceptable software manufacturers. So they won the bid on October 30th. We sat down with the airport, and AeroCloud went through and just kind of showed what their system is and what it can do and how it works. And I think we all came to a conclusion that it's a good system, acceptable. This system will be used for common use gates, ticketing counters that are not assigned yet to airports. So those will be flex spot at the ticketing counter. It's also operates your FIDS, your flight information display, and and then as said, gate management system. So this is a subscription agreement. In this product, like I said, it's used worldwide. AeroCloud's at like Cleveland, Birmingham, Sarasota, and Minneapolis as well. The airlines at Fargo have all had experience with AeroCloud and using the CUPS product at other airports. So we're recommending that you approve the moving forward with the subscription agreement for AeroCloud.
Okay, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question. Say, Brandon, do we pay per gate then for the AeroCloud subscription, or is it just for the whole airport?
It's for the whole airport. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, Brendan, when do we start using this?
It'll go into operation once we have the addition. We open the addition up, which is the end of next year.
Okay. So this gives you insight into wiring and everything you need. Is that?
Yeah. There's.
We aren't going to use this for a year. I imagine. Well, our subscription will start then, or some correct.
Correct. It takes some time for them to customize and set up their software system, as well as coordinating all the hardware needed for the system. So, installation of their systems at the gates, and then having that software ready so when they're when it's finished and they're installing the hardware, they can set up their software and commission it, make sure it operates properly prior to use.
And what's the approximate cost of this?
I would have to look. It's actually in McGough's contract, GMP contract. So it would be like a breakout item in a schedule of values. God, Joe, I hate putting you on the spot all the time, but do you happen to know what that is?
Number, John.
It's about
Just a ballpark.
It's about 200,000.
Yeah.
It's about 200,000, and the annual recurring software cost is just a little over 100,000, and it's tiered up. It's a 5-year. It's a 5-year deal. It starts about 111,000 for the annual operating expenditure, which will be put into the early rates and charges.
Yeah, the construction cost and installing it is our contract. The
Oh yeah, sorry.
agreement that you guys are approving is to. It's a little bit of a. And you'll have a contract with them after we leave, and we'll have the contract with them to install it.
Correct.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Airport.
Mr. Chair, Sean and Brandon, so just curious, do we recoup any of that cost? Like say if Allegiant uses the software or a Sun Country or
Through the rates and charges. That's how they pay for it.
okay. And what do we use now?
They're all proprietary. We have nothing to do with the ticket counter or the sign.
So this would just allow more flexibility.
So
and got it. Okay.
Anybody can use any gate.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve.
Okay, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Rashani.
Approve. Yeah, aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Receive updated proposal from Eden Hunt.
Yes. So the next thing that we just wanted to check in on. So we did revise the amenities proposal, and that is the coordination of all the advertising, wayfinding, exterior wayfinding as well for the airport campus landside, and we removed the artwork, consulting, and procurement. I think it was around like 347, the original proposal, but taking that out, and then instead we would be working with Michael Strand at NDSU, who we've already had multiple conversations with about how that would work, as well as Artworks, and that brought the proposal down to 212,000. So we're checking in today to see if you guys had any additional questions or if we can move forward with this. Looking for your approval on it.
Discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I think we were also going to hear from Flint on what their proposal would be to provide this service.
No. Flint is the sponsorship portion of this proposal. That's not independent. Is that correct, Brandon?
Yeah, that's correct. They'll be facilitating along with us. They'll be facilitating the sponsorship. So much like how we put those sponsorship packages together, we would be part of that. I guess part of the team that puts where are these going to go, and what are they going to do? Are they going to be digital? Are they going to be static? And we'll work with Flint and putting those agreements together with the sponsorships.
It's in the packet, so all the things.
Okay, I thought that Flint though was looking at being the coordinator of the signage, like doing the umbrella type of thing, not just a piece of it. I thought that
the branding.
Well, Madison is on. I see.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah's here too.
And Sarah, yes.
I'm not sure about the signage piece. I can ask Jody though. I know about the sponsorship piece.
Yeah, branding is listed. Flint is there. I mean, they'll assist with signage as they can if you're looking at 19th Avenue or whatever, but it's in the packet. I don't know.
Right. So
It's a lot, and I think that's why Mr. Berg asked us to put this together, because you do have a lot of people involved in these pieces, but the ask from us was to pull this all together and coordinate it all so that it's all relates to one another, such as the signage, incorporating the branding into all the exterior signage, the interior signage, any opportunities to incorporate it within the even the artwork and sponsorships. So those are kind of the little pockets and voids that are not covered with, if we were not to be doing this scope.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Brandon. So I'm sorry, I thought one of the options for us would be that like a local company could be taking care of this umbrella type of the marketing effort property wide. And so Matt, I see Madison's on now too.
Yeah, so as far as the signage goes, and Jody would be Jody would have more in-depth knowledge on this. I know we plan to present at the next board meeting, and if it's something that you would like us to add some information about that, we certainly can. But specifically for this, we hadn't put together any sort of, we'd plan on working with Brandon and company to help them execute however they needed.
Yeah, the board selected Brandon to do this coordination of all of these things that is on that sheet. And there are local people that are obviously involved in that coordination for those different things that are on the sheet.
I know we had conversations with Flint Group, Indigo, to, when you're talking about signage and their branding, in working with them, and that was part of our coordination effort, and why we had to why it took some time to put this together, because it's fairly unique, but we wanted to make sure that we weren't overlapping services either, services that you already had under separate contracts.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Brandon, the overlap, the one area of overlap was signage, wayfaring, wayfinding. And so as it goes into this group now, Flint, as well as everybody else, we'll look at a total branding of signage coming off 19th Avenue on in through the airport. Is that what we're getting at? There'll be continuity of all signage throughout that area.
Yeah, that's correct. So as you drive into other campuses like NDSU or other airports, you see their exterior signage, how it relates with having the brand there, the same font, maybe the same rhythm of direction, so that when they come into the airport, they, that expectation is followed through.
And then the other item that was specifically dealt with was the entrance signage, reader boards. That's all part of this now, correct?
That's all part of this, correct. And that was working with, I think at this point, is like Indigo Sign had kind of started that effort. So we began conversations with them, but this would be following through with them and coordinating it with the rest.
I think Indigo Sign had actually competed an RFP and been awarded.
It's all explained in here in your package.
So we understand.
Okay, looking for a motion? What are your wishes?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve.
Motion been made to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second at this point.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Could we just have one moment, Mr. Chair? This is a 212 is an awful lot of money just to coordinate vendors that are already.
We reduced that amount from what it was down to 212.
I just think it's an awful lot of money to coordinate a group of professionals to make sure we've got the same funds.
Roll call, please.
Shawnee?
Aye.
Bosworth?
Aye.
Beckman?
No.
Aye. Okay. Item number 6, received communications from U.S. Customs and Border Protection regarding reimbursable memorandum of agreement.
I mentioned this to you sometime past. So the airports throughout North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota received this notice from Customs. Ours was August 6th. Some of them just got it back in October. And we've been engaged together, but these are one of the unfunded required mandates of an airport having a customs facility. Their estimated cost is $72,574.50, and then the annual recurring cost is estimated at $8,960. We have to do this. There is no choice. We're working with Customs to hopefully lower the cost of some of the items that they have listed on page 2. But it's through the government procurement process. Even though they charge $2,400 for a certain item, we can get it for $1,000. There's no opportunity with Customs for us to provide that for them. But we've engaged with the delegation on it, so both Hoven and Kramer have this information along with the delegations from the other states to just kind of show that the costs are exorbitant, but that is the government procurement process, unfortunately, and we're just forced to do this. So they will be coming back through and doing an OIT assessment of the infrastructure, and then they will order the equipment and then send us a bill for whatever the final costs are.
It's the old $10,000 hammer project.
So this is just
Okay.
for your information.
No, motion isn't
No, it's
needed
FYI.
on this? Okay. Well, it's something that we have to do anyway. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
John.
And again, this has been kind of bothering me since we started the terminal project. We talked about maybe a convertible gate to a customs facility. And it seemed that got quashed by Customs saying it has to be
a separate building.
Correct.
But Sioux Falls is still going ahead looking at their process for some sort of combined gate. I'm just wondering, are they asking for exception or
They currently have an approved customs area that they've used once, to my knowledge, maybe twice, that was grandfathered in. We don't have that. So it'll be interesting to follow to see if Customs still stands on it has to be a separate facility. I mean, if they hold true to what it is now, Customs won't allow it.
Well, I just, when you see those sort of continuing on and in what truly is a competitive airport, and I think the next leg of this stool is leaning into international. I just think we should be continually asking Customs, are you allowing exceptions? What is the process? Because I'd hate to get done with this and then 6 months later, Sioux Falls opens up a convertible facility and we're going, oh crap, we can't do that.
Our Fargo and Pembina staff are constantly watching that. So if they start to open the door for exceptions, we're going to know about it. And then we'll be back engaged in hopefully utilizing existing space in this terminal to turn it into an international customs facility.
Well, yeah, just that we keep that top of mind, that if there were the potential along the lines of what we were originally thinking, that we keep that option open, because I'm hopeful that some of this regulatory stuff may change here over the next years, and there may be some abilities to just not miss this opportunity.
We made good strides when Chris Magnus was head of customs for his short tenure. Yeah. It was all good. And leadership changed. They said, no, it's a separate facility. So, and we would have to employ and pay for 3 full-time customs agents year round, whether you need them or not. And our international flights are seasonal. So there was no wiggle room, but we're still following that.
And we couldn't share maybe those customs agents with the Jet Center?
Okay. They were for actually 3 independents that just staffed this station, because FIS is different than a general aviation facility.
But I think with international flights in and out of this airport, it's a tremendous advantage.
Sun Country and Allegiant would be here tomorrow if
we would immediately win airline business. And also, I think clearing customs here in a quick manner for other charter flights and point to point would really be beneficial to take you out of the rat race of some of those customs clearing airports.
Mr. Chair, just to follow up on your comment about Sioux Falls, I know I read a article where in their plans for their expansion, they're planning ahead to have a spot for international customs.
For now, but if things stand as they are, Dan said they would not move forward with it. It's a $11.5 million expense that if there's no commitment from customs, or if they're told that they have to have 3 full-time staff there year round that the airport's going to pay for, it's a showstopper. Yep. So we'll see. We'll follow it, but
okay.
I think we just want to keep on top.
Okay, item 7, receive update regarding pending special assessments.
So the city and the airport continue to go back and forth. I did just reach out to Mark at the FAA here this morning. The city takes the position that because the Special Assessment Commission determined a benefit, that these specials will apply. The FAA, and the last time they came back, disagree with that. So we're still sort of jockeying back and forth.
They have agreed to defer a significant amount of the specials, and what they have done since working with Jeff and I at Meat Hunt is they have assessed the eligible share to the property that can be developed.
And that's sort of the rub right now, because a lot of this property is property that can't be developed. So that's where the FAA's rub is with that not being deferred.
So if things move forward as they are right now, the total assessment that could be paid by the airport and tenants is $396,000, down from
$2 million.
Over $2 million. So, but it's still being vetted out. The FAA had questions, and the city's response, it sits with the FAA now to get this information that was just sent on October 29th, and we'll see. They have taken the specials off of our tax rolls. Did we just get updated? Yeah. So the city has already removed the specials on our tax statements so that they're not owed. So the final number still being worked on.
Mr. Chairman, are they deferring the specials?
Yes.
I would just encourage us to try and find a solution for this, because deferment just kicks the can down the road. And when we're deferring specials, what we're saying is nobody's going to pay them because of the dispute, but it's just ticking up the interest on it. To what end, nobody really knows. And I just think some attempt to bring everybody in, not, hey, we can't do this, how do we do it, and what's the extent of it?
It's a national conversation at the Washington level.
And I just think the deferral's not the answer. It just
Sean and I went over and met with the city folks back in, I think, August, to really try to really work through what everyone could agree with. There was an immediate benefit, because the airport will absolutely pay the special assessments that the FAA will allow. So I thought that was a really good working group, but the fact is we're confined by the statute.
Well, and I think what we have to recognize is both sides are confined by statutory requirements. And so in the special assessment laws, if you put an improvement in and there's benefit to a property, you cannot not charge them in the same manner FAA is saying. Since we prohibit development, there's no benefit to us, that somehow that needs to be brought together. It's not either side taking this hard position, you have to pay or you're not going to pay. It's how do we deal with this when there is a moratorium against development? Maybe there's state law that we need to approach. Maybe there's federal, but I just think we've kicked it down the road into these deferred specials that really don't do anything other than just put it off so we don't have to build.
I would say since it is not just a local conversation and it's a much broader national conversation, and we're not the only airport in this position, that we move to some level
And
change.
we could look to the state legislature to deal with it.
Changing
Changes
it,
in.
that's, I don't think changing anything at the state changes anything. It has to be a federal change.
Well, if the state's going to recognize non-developable lands as not meaning, the special assessment is a benefit-laden requirement. If you can't show direct benefit to the property, you can't special assess.
Right. Okay, I see.
So if you have an overlay on top of it that prohibits development, it can't be assigned special, but the state's going to have to look at that. It's a very technical adjustment to the laws.
So that's the update number 8.
Okay. Number 8, Dr. Bashani wants to discuss proposed visioning project for NDSU senior architect students for property adjacent to the airport.
Thank you, Jim. As would be natural and appropriate, we spend a lot of time talking about the development of the airport's property. And it struck me at the same time that we're surrounded by a lot of property that, if developed, would or could have a substantial impact on the looks, the feel, and the operation of the airport. Obviously, those are properties we have no control over. But that said, as a vulgar example, would you rather have some quick stop strip mall shopping, retail on 19th, or a strip joint? Like I said, it's a vulgar example, but I'm not so sure something that we would not find an attractive match for the airport could very possibly end up in locations like that. At the same time, I'm aware that the School of Architecture has a class called I'm having a mental block on it, but it'd be the equivalent of a senior capstone course. These are architecture students who a few months later will be practicing professional architects. And what they do is look for projects for them to do a visioning plan, not a master plan, because none of their projects are things that they actually control, but a visioning plan of what that could look for. And they oftentimes struggle to find projects that that would have enough complexity to them to have it be a quality challenge for these senior architects. In the past, they've done things like sewer lift plants, as how desperate sometimes this gets to find something to do. But some provocative ones they've done recently are 2 visioning plans for Medora. It originally started out as 1, and the Medora Foundation was so impressed they asked them to come back and do a second phase of more specific visioning. They've also done one for the downtown city of Minot. Minot's leaders were so impressed by these students' work that they immediately, or very soon after, issued RFPs on a few initial projects based on the students' work. Some of the city leaders were literally in tears during the presentation. That's the quality of work that these students do. My thought is that doing a visioning project for the properties around the airport could be a very exciting opportunity for the students and could be a very exciting opportunity for us as well. Again, these wouldn't be in any way binding. I wouldn't want to suggest them as that. But it's amazing when there's some sort of idea of how things should be developed, how often developments follow those ideas. This would take a lot of work, and this would be a long-term project. And I would like to propose to the airport authority, if you think this is a good idea, that Paul Ekman be our liaison to it and be able to bird dog it through the process. And I don't want to presume that the NDSU School of Architecture will say yes. I think they will. I would anticipate that. But to have Paula bird dog this through, both with NDSU and with city planners, to make sure this all stays on a path of things that, if we were envisioning what the properties peripheral to the airport would look like, what we might want that to be. I think Paula's taste and interest in that area are pretty obvious to us all, and she has the time and energy to do this. I'll quit talking at that point. I don't know if Paula wants to say anything, and just get your all's thoughts and reactions.
Paula?
I think that we have, a long-term plan for the airport. So this would kind of go hand in hand with just making sure that that vision of what we want the long-term development of this area to be would be wise. Because as Dean said, if we don't have a plan, then somebody else makes it. So I think it's really forward thinking to think of the future and what the airport will look like. And the
next part is it's not totally non-binding, but it puts something out there versus leaving that a void that somebody from the private sector could pursue in ways that we wouldn't want. They could still do that, but it makes it more awkward if there's a viable, well thought of plan in the public sector.
You want to make a motion to that effect, Dr. Brashani?
I'd like to move that we appoint Paula to be the liaison to pursue a visioning exercise in coordination with NDSU Schools of Architecture for the properties peripheral but external to the airport properties.
Got that, Joni?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, item 9, receive update from sponsorship working group regarding Clear Channel discussions.
Mr. Chairman, see Thaddeus, you're there. Maybe if you want to summarize what you felt we came to, or you want me to, or Paula to, it doesn't matter.
You can. I thought it was great that you said, hey, do whatever you want, Clear Channel. We're staying out of it.
Yeah.
No, I thought we had a useful conversation, and I'll let you explain it.
Well,
John.
Very quickly where we are. We had a wide-ranging discussion and lots of hypotheticals. And the thing that we're bringing back to the board is that we have an existing contract. We understand what the existing contract controls, doesn't control. And then we got into a number of hypotheticals around sponsorships and what they look like and what they don't look like. And what Clear Channel was looking to accomplish and what we could or could not do as a public entity airport. And so the succinct version of it is, let's operate under the existing contract. It goes for 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it is. It spells out where the advertising spaces are. It spells out if construction changes, what we have to do to replace that. And going forward, under the action we took just previously in the agenda, Flint will be working on sponsorship. Once we have a sponsorship identified, so we know what it is, what's it going to encompass, what's the payment, contributions, back and forth, we will deal with that and find a way to make it work in a common ground between Clear Channel and the airport at that point. That the conclusion that we came to on our side, and we would recommend to this board, is that we're trying to identify a hypothetical and develop sort of guidelines for what would be included in that when we don't know what a sponsorship would look like. So we have the agreement, we have everything in place, we go ahead with that. And as Flint may not ever even bring us a sponsorship, which makes all this sort of not worth the effort. If they have one, we have it defined, we go from there and work on it. That's kind of.
It was a nice summary. And so I think, and I appreciate the way we're just going to move forward under the existing agreement. Certainly Clear Channel has made our concerns we've noted our concerns, and now the board is fully aware of what our concerns are. And if there are no issues that arise that impact our business, then I think there will be no problems at all. And if we do, we'll do it within the confines of our agreement and work together to a mutually beneficial agreement. So I appreciate the time, both this and the previous time with this working group, so that we could come up with a solution of sorts that we can certainly abide by.
So I don't know that we need any action at this point, or?
I don't think so, not at this point.
Thank you, Thaddeus.
Thank you.
Thaddeus.
All right, well, thank you. Take care, folks.
Yes.
Okay, item 10, old business. What are your wishes? Any old business?
I think the only old business will be addressed by Dr. Schatz after the meeting.
Oh, that's after the meeting, yeah. Hearing none.
Just to mention, next meeting will be December 17th. United just celebrated the 40th anniversary. That was put on social media by Flint. The ATP grant that we received for $2 million, we requested $19 million. We're expecting $10 million, so we're $8 million short of our expectation. But we're working with the FAA to have additional funds awarded to that $2 million amount. The reason being is that there will be millions of dollars returned by airports that will refuse the grants because the amount they receive, they really can't do anything with it. So this happens each cycle. So we're hoping to capture another 48 million. We'll see where it goes, but we're working with them right now. That's all that I have.
You said December 17th?
Yes, that's the next one.
No way we could change that. I'll be on a flight to New York on that day. Yes.
Monday the 16th or
Monday the 16th. We could do that.
Wouldn't it be December 10th?
Yeah, I actually have on my calendar the 10th.
And the 10th.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
We mentioned at the last meeting, 10. I'll be at the Airshow Convention on the 10th. Join remotely.
We could do it. I have a Cass County meeting on the 16th, but that doesn't start till like 1 o'clock. We could do it on the 16th, Monday.
16th.
If that's amenable to everybody.
Works for me.
Okay, good.
Okay, Monday the 16th. Sorry.
60. Okay, very good. All right. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
In favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.